If you're like many people that are nearing the retirement age, and that can mean a lot of different things to different people, but let's say that you're 50, 55, 60, or 63 years old, and you're starting to think about retirement and you're starting to get overwhelmed. What should you be thinking about? What are the pieces of the puzzle that you need to make sure that you address? Well, that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. There are 5 pieces of your financial planning puzzle that you need to make sure that you're addressing and that I think you should be aware of as you're entering this next phase of life. Hi everyone, my name is Grant Ellis. I'm the CEO and owner of Ellis Retirement Advisors. We help people across the country prepare for, enter, and live in retirement. So without further ado, let's get to it. What are the 5 pieces of your financial puzzle? Now mind you, each one of these things has many subcategories and sub-items underneath it. But I'm a big fan of frameworks. I can't look at the thousands of details and try to figure out what's going on, and I do this for a living. So when you're thinking about your financial situation, I want to give you a simple 5-category framework for thinking through and addressing your financial situation. So without further ado, let's go with number 1, and that is foundations. Foundations sounds super simple. It's kind of cliche. I don't even like to say it because people are like, well, duh, you got to deal with the foundations. But what does that mean? It's cash flow. It's all of the basic types of things, money in and money out. Are you saving? Where are you saving? What's your annual budget look like? What kind of tax situation do you have? It's very foundational stuff. We want to know the basics. So you have to handle that. We're going to put that to the side. But if you don't have a budget, you need a budget, even if you've got a lot of money. The main thing we tell people is we've got to know how much money is going out, where it's going, how much money is coming in, and where that money's going. And then that money that comes in, where are you sending it? Are you making contributions to a 401k or an IRA? Are you putting money into a Roth account? Are you saving money for college in a 529? So even though it sounds simple, foundations is extremely important because as you can imagine, there are a lot of moving pieces under that foundations umbrella. And a lot of times people come to us and they say, listen, I just don't know if things are going in the right places at the right times in the right amounts. That's what foundations is. So you might not be able to figure out exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes that's where the financial planning process comes into play with a financial advisor. And yes, I'm biased because I am one and that's what we do. But if anything, you want to know the information. One of my favorite shows as a kid was G.I. Joe. And if you ever watch G.I. Joe, first of all, that means you are over the age of 40 like me. But what it also means is you probably know their tagline. Do you remember the tagline? It was, knowing is half the battle. And I love that. I can hear it right now in my head. The G.I. Joe character is talking about knowing is half the battle. But it's really true. It's really important. So when I talk about foundations, it's really about knowing what's going on. Oftentimes, people don't know. So to start with your foundations, get out a spreadsheet, list everything going on. One of the easiest places to start is with your bank statements. Take a look at the last 3 months of your bank statements, highlight anything coming in, highlight anything going out, and then put that into different categories. We don't even have to call it budgeting because, yeah, I know people hate the B word, but call it cash flow planning, money in, money out. And then if you have anything else that you own or you owe, you want to talk about those things too. You want to understand what that looks like. Do you have debt payments that are going out, things that you owe? And do you have other assets that you own? Houses, cars, boats, lake houses, planes. If you got a plane, reach out, let's talk. But these are foundational concepts that you need to make sure that you are aware of. Knowing is half the battle. Remember, G.I. Joe was smart. That's number 1, foundations. Number 2 is what we call protection, or also we call it insurance. And I know people talk about insurance and they feel like they're getting taken advantage of. They have too much of it, too little of it. They don't think it's necessary. Whatever, it doesn't matter. For us, what we've got to figure out, we've got to understand the risks associated with you and your financial situation. So financial planning, it's as much about providing opportunities for growth as it is protecting from risks, things that could take you out, quote unquote, financially. So we need to understand if you have anything in place in terms of protection, life insurance, disability insurance, certain kinds of trusts and protective accounts, things like that. We need to understand, how are you protecting your assets? How are you protecting your financial situation? So that's number 2. So we've got foundations. We got to know all of those different things, what's going on, cash in, cash out, what you owe, what you own. We've got to know how you're protecting those things. So that's primarily insurance. Then we want to look also at your investments. And you notice we did not lead with investments. Investments are a tool to help you meet your financial goals in the long term. They're not the objective, but they are extremely important. So in step 3, or the third umbrella piece of this entire puzzle, what are your investments? What are you doing with them? And here's how I like people to think about their investments. You have goals, you have needs, you have things you want to do in the future. Your investments are tools to help you meet those future goals. I'm a big believer in goals-based investing, not ambiguous investing. And what is ambiguous investing? Well, that's when somebody comes and says, well, with my investments, I just want to make as much money as possible. I want it to grow. I want it to do really good. These are really loose, ambiguous terms that don't mean anything. We want everyone to be very specific with their investment goals. An example of that would be, I want to have enough money to pay myself $75,000 a year in retirement and inflate it every single year for the rest of my life. That's a very specific investment goal. But to start, we've got to know what investments you have. So you want to make sure you list all of those out. The types of investment accounts you have, how you are handling them, what money's going in, what money's going out. List all that out. So it might be really simple. It could be as simple as, hey, we have a 401k and we're making a 6% contribution to that and our employer matches 3% of that contribution as well. That's great. It could also be very complex. You could have 6 old 401ks, a few old IRAs, a couple of 529s, maybe an UTMA, maybe an UGMA, maybe a trust account, all kinds of crazy things. Make sure you list them, make sure you keep up with statements. That's an important piece of that process, understanding your investment accounts so that we can help you make investment decisions that will help you meet your goals down the line. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is your estate plan. And I know nobody likes to talk about their estate plan because it's not fun, but guess what? You're gonna pass away one day. And I know it's not a fun thing to talk about, but it's as important as anything. And estate planning isn't simply about passing on certain assets to your loved ones. It's about protecting your assets, and it's about ensuring that your wishes are executed on with as little taxation as possible and as little interference with government and control and entities as possible in the event that you do pass away. And so we always tell people, this is the thing you can't drag your feet on. If it's not in writing, it's not gonna happen. And if it's not in writing and it does happen, it's gonna take a long time and it's gonna cost a lot of money. So even though it's not fun to talk about, estate planning is extremely important. And as we get into complex investment and financial planning, the estate plan is a big piece of that puzzle. Everything integrates into it. Everything in financial planning is connected. So if you don't have an estate plan, that creates a big void in your financial plan. So we want to make sure that you have that. So do you have a will? Do you have powers of attorney? Do you have medical directives? Do you have trusted contacts listed on all your accounts? How are your investment accounts and the things that you own titled? Will they transfer automatically to the person you want them to transfer to? How is your money going to go to your kids if you have kids? Is it all going to go to them at one time? Is it going to go to your grandkids? Is it set up to take care of their college? Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you, first of all, understand it. Secondarily, if you have wishes that are not in writing in the form of a will or a trust or other documents, that you get those in place so that your entire financial plan can work together. And the last piece of this puzzle, last but not least, is taxation. This is the part that people are like, wait. You're a financial advisor, you're an investment advisor, you do financial planning. Why in the world are we talking about taxes? Well, I'm glad that you asked. If you can imagine, if you watched any of my other videos, the way that your taxes are handled is as important as anything else. Investment accounts are all titled and set up in a way that affect the way they're taxes. For instance, Roth IRAs. If you have a Roth IRA, there's another video, we'll link to it, that I talk about the different types of accounts and the taxation of all of those accounts. But if you have a Roth IRA, it's taxed in a very specific way, right? You're paying taxes now and not later. If you have a pre-tax IRA or 401k, you are deferring taxes until later. Well, all of that is extremely important as you get into the retirement phase. Why is that? Because your tax situation can change on a dime. You can go from having income to not having income. You can go from having income to having less income or more income. All of this affects your tax rates and in turn affects how the money that you put into and take out of those accounts is taxed. So we want to make sure that you pay your fair share of taxes. There's no one telling you shouldn't pay taxes. You should, you have to. It's kind of the law also. But you want to pay your fair share and nothing more. And you also want to consider the taxation of your accounts to your heirs. So the people that are going to get the assets when you pass away, how do you want those to be taxed? Do you want to pay that tax now for them, which is a really awesome thing to do? Or do you want to defer that tax and have them pay it? There are certain types of accounts that are tax advantage, but basically everything ties into tax. So one of the final things we talk about and want you to understand is your tax situation. What are your tax rates, your marginal, your effective brackets? What credits and deductions do you have available to you based on your income? What are you phased out of? What are you close to phasing out of? And if you made a few minor tweaks, you'd have access to, or maybe not. So those 5 pieces of that puzzle are the things that we want people thinking about. These are the things that we walk people through when we're starting the financial planning process. And so in summary, the 5 things, your foundations. Your foundations are extremely important. We got to know what's going on. Then your protections, your insurance. Then your estate planning, your investments, your tax. And then, we don't want to forget about the last piece of the puzzle, which is a little bit more specific for retirees, and that is retirement income. How much money are you going to pay yourself in retirement? Where's that money going to come from? How is it going to be taxed? And will that money last you for the rest of your life? And do you want to have any left over that you can leave to your kids or your grandkids? So really, I said 5 things, but there were actually 6. But the 6th piece, the retirement income piece, is specific to those of you who are nearing retirement, but it's extremely important for those of you that are. So as you're thinking through your situation, these are the things that we want you to be thinking about. And when you get to that point where you're like, oh my word, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, everything is too complex, I don't know what to do, that is often the best time to start working with a financial advisor. And if that's the case and you want to talk more about potentially working with us, I would love to meet you and have a conversation, see if we're a good fit. You can click on the link below, schedule a time to connect with me directly via Zoom and have an introductory conversation. Or you can go to our website, ellisretirement.com. Again, we help people across the country, both in person and virtually. Would love to hear your stories, see if we can help. Hopefully this is helpful. If you liked it, share it with a friend, watch some of the other videos, subscribe, do all the fun things. We're just trying to help people out as they make decisions for their financial future. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening and watching, and I will talk to you next time.